May 1945. An Allied intelligence facility in southern Germany. Field Marshal Gerd von Rundstedt, the most senior German commander on the Western Front, the man who had overseen the defense of Fortress Europe from the beaches of Normandy to the banks of the Rhine, is sitting across a table from American officers. He has been a prisoner for less than a week. He is 69 years old. He is tired. And he is being asked a question that, in one form or another, every captured German general will be asked over the next several months. The question is simple. Why did Germany lose in the West? Rundstedt gives 3 reasons. First, the absolute superiority of Allied air power, which made all movement in daylight impossible. Second, the lack of motor fuel, which paralyzed the panzers and grounded the Luftwaffe. Third, the systematic destruction of the railway network, which made it impossible to bring a single train across the Rhine. 3 clean military answers from a professional soldier. Air, fuel, rail. That is his verdict. He does not mention a 4th factor. He does not mention the trucks. Not the trucks that carried ammunition. Not the trucks that carried fuel or food or medical supplies. He does not mention the other trucks. The ones that carried donut machines. The ones that carried phonograph records and coffee urns and copies of a daily newspaper written by soldiers for soldiers. The ones that were driven by women, college-educated women from Connecticut and Indiana and Virginia, who had volunteered to follow the United States Army across Europe for the purpose of handing a 19-year-old rifleman a hot donut and asking him where he was from. Rundstedt did not mention those trucks because he could not see them. They were invisible to him, not because they were hidden, but because they existed in a category that his entire military education had no name for. The Wehrmacht had a word for firepower. It had a word for maneuver. It had a word for supply. It did not have a word for what the Americans were doing when they sent a 2.5-ton GMC truck full of pastries and popular music to a crossroads 3 miles behind the fighting, staffed it with 3 young women who knew how to crack a joke and pour coffee in a snowstorm, and let it sit there while exhausted infantrymen lined up in the mud for something that had nothing to do with winning a battle and everything to do with winning a war. This is the story of those trucks. It is the story of the women who drove them. It is the story of a country that understood something about soldiers that the most powerful military machine in Europe never learned. And it begins not in the Second World War, but in the first one, in a flooded tent on the Western Front in October 1917, where a woman from Huntington, Indiana, dropped to her knees on a dirt floor and fried 7 donuts in a small pan over an open flame, and accidentally created a tradition that would follow the American soldier for the next 30 years and across 2 oceans. Before we go back to that tent, I need you to understand what this